Long ago, before your mother's mother was born, the village of Kalunda was full of laughter, drums, and songs that made the moon dance above the acacia trees. Children played under mango trees, cows drank from the clear stream, and millet grew tall and golden. But that was before the day Mama Nyoka's son died, before she screamed her curses into the earth, before the soil itself seemed to reject joy. They say Mama Nyoka had once been Nyaru, the most beautiful girl in Kalunda. Her voice was medicine, her hands healed with roots and whispers. When she gave birth to her only son, Mandu, the whole village celebrated for 7 nights. But happiness, like the wind, never stays long. At age 12, Mandu fell ill. A fever like no one had seen. No charms could help. No herbs. No prayers. Not even Nyaru's own medicine. One night, Mandu died in her arms. And something in her broke. Nyara changed her name to Mama Nyoka, Mother of Snakes. She abandoned the village and crossed the river Mbol, where no one dared go. She built a hut from thorns and vines. She spoke to shadows, and the forest answered. Years passed. Kalunda became a place of silence. Newborn babies never cried. Women miscarried before their 4th moon. Crops wilted during planting season. Men argued, then vanished into the forest, never to be seen again. The village elders whispered among themselves. It is the curse of the snake woman. Mama Nyoka watches us still. She must be stopped, but who dares? In a small mud house near the edge of Kalunda lived Kamali, a girl of 14 moons, sharp eyes, and dreams bigger than her village. She had never known her mother, lost to childbirth, and her father had vanished into the forest when she was just 3. Raised by her grandmother, Mzinjoki, Kamali was told only 2 rules. Do not go past the whispering bamboo. Do not say Mama Nyoka's name after sunset. But Kamali was curious, too curious. Every night, she would hear a song, faint, melodic, haunting. It floated in from the forest like mist, wrapping around her dreams. A song in a language no one spoke anymore. One evening, she asked her grandmother, Kamali, who sings at night, Shosh? Mzinjoki, coughing, eyes wide. Don't ask questions the ancestors chose to forget. Sleep. But Kamali could not forget. One moonless night, while the village slept, Kamali crept out of bed. She wrapped a kikoi around her shoulders, stuffed a gourd of water into a sling, and slipped into the bush, guided only by the strange lullaby echoing through the darkness. The whispering bamboo stood tall, whispering secrets no one dared decode. Kamali stepped over the roots, heart pounding. The forest grew colder, the air thicker, and then she saw it. A flicker of blue fire. A hut stood in the clearing, its walls covered in snake skins, bones hanging like wind chimes from the rafters. A circle of live snakes slithered around it, hissing softly as though guarding the house. In the center, her back turned to Kamali, sat an old woman, long silver dreadlocks, back hunched like a crescent moon. She stirred a pot that bubbled with green smoke. Kamali gasped, too loud. The snakes hissed louder. Mama Nyoka turned. Her face was not entirely human. One eye was silver like the moon, the other black as coal. Her lips moved, but her voice entered Kamali's mind without sound. Mama Nyoka, you came, and that means something, but it will cost you. Kamali took a step back. The snakes began to slither forward. She ran. Kamali didn't stop running until the bamboo thinned and the river sounds returned. She reached home just before dawn, barefoot, breathless, and shaking. Her grandmother waited at the door, holding her staff like a weapon. Mzinjoki, you crossed the bamboo. You've doomed us all. Kamali tried to explain. The hut, the blue fire, the voice. But Mzinjoki covered her ears. Mzinjoki, you must never speak of this. Never. The curse, it remembers. That night, Kamali fell ill. Her skin burned with fever. She spoke in her sleep in a voice that was not her own. Villagers came and went, but no charm worked. Then a mark appeared on her shoulder, a snake in the shape of a crescent moon, glowing faintly in the dark. Mzinjoki wept. The elders met in secret. They remembered stories of one child born every generation who could walk into Mama Nyoka's domain and return. One destined to end the curse or become its next master. They looked at Kamali's sleeping face and whispered, maybe she is the one. And so the drums of fate began to beat. A child marked by a curse. a witch who waits with secrets older than time, and a village on the edge of doom. The story had just begun. Kamali lay wrapped in animal skins, her forehead drenched in sweat. Her fever refused to break. The snake-shaped mark on her shoulder pulsed softly with light, sometimes red, sometimes white, but never still. Mzinjoki sat by her side, chanting ancient protective prayers she hadn't spoken since her youth. The old woman's eyes were sunken from worry. Outside, birds did not sing. The wind held its breath. Even the dogs in Kalunda no longer barked at night. Then came the cries. In the chief's homestead, Ajua, the chief's youngest daughter, woke screaming. Her belly bloated as if 9 moons pregnant, though she was only 16 and untouched by any man. The midwives came. Her eyes rolled white. Her tongue swelled. She whispered in voices not her own. "She is coming. She is coming with teeth and smoke." Before sunrise, the pregnancy vanished. The girl fainted. Her skin was cold as stone. The village trembled. That same day, 3 cows at the cattle kraal collapsed without wounds. The milk from the morning turned black. Chickens walked in circles and dropped dead mid-cluck. Old Man Bakery, the animal herder, wept openly. "Bakery, this is not sickness. This is not poison. This is vengeance." Villagers began whispering again. Some pointed toward the forest, others toward Kamali's hut. In the market square, whispers flew like bats. Villager 1. She went into the bamboo. Villager 2. She looked into the witch's eyes. Villager 3. She's carrying something that doesn't belong to her. The elders met that night by firelight. Only 9 remained of the original 12. 3 had died in the last 5 moons, mouths full of sand and eyes turned gray. Elder Mikasa. She bears the mark. Elder Nana. Then perhaps she is the one chosen to undo this evil. Elder Jabari. Or the one to complete it. Kamali began to have dreams. In them, she stood beneath a giant tree made of bones, with leaves that whispered her name. She would walk forward, barefoot, and see Mama Nyoka standing beneath the tree, face shadowed, snakes coiled around her neck like jewelry. Mama Nyk in dream. "You carry my burden now." Kamali. "What burden?" Mama Nyoka. "The curse that you will either lift or pass on." Kamali would wake in sweat, heart thumping like a war drum. On the 5th night, as Kamali rested in her grandmother's hut, she heard the sound again, the ancient song, distant yet clear. This time, she did not rise. But the shadows in the corner moved. A white cobra, glowing faintly, slithered into the hut, its eyes blinking like stars. It circled Kamali once, then vanished through the wall. Mzinjoki saw it too. Mzinjoki. Terrified. She has been marked by the Serpent Mother. There is no hiding now. At dawn, a crowd gathered outside Mzinjoki's hut. Led by angry voices, fearful mothers, and the bruised chief himself, they shouted, "Villager, give us the girl. The curse must end." Chief Mugo. "My daughter lies as though dead. My cows are gone." This child walked into evil and brought it back with her. Mzinjoki stepped forward, her old frame thin but upright. Mzinjoki. She's only a girl. The curse was here before she ever stepped into the forest. Villager. But she has the mark. Others echoed, pounding sticks on the ground. Kamali stepped out on her own, trembling. Kamali. If I am cursed, then I must find its end. Not for myself, but for all of you. Silence fell. Then Elder Mikasa raised a hand. Elder Mikasa. She is not the curse. She is the key. Let her go where no one else will. Kamali was summoned to the circle of elders that evening. They told her the full tale. Mama Nyoka's curse was born of pain, but fed by injustice. Long ago, her son Mandu died not from illness, but from a poisoned gourd given by jealous villagers. The child was innocent. The villagers were not. Kamali, stunned. So the curse was not madness. It was grief. Elder Nana. And now, that grief lives in you. They gave her a task. Return to Mama Nyoka. Learn the true spell of unbinding. End the curse, or take it on yourself. At sunrise, Kamali packed her things, gourd, flint, roots, and beads. Mzinjoki gave her a necklace of dried monkey skulls, a powerful charm from the old days. Mzinjoki, you are my child Kamali, but you are also the forest now. They embraced. No tears, just understanding. Kamali crossed the river Mbol alone, and this time, the bamboo did not whisper. It sang. The journey into the deep forest was long. Kamali saw strange things. Trees that bled sap the color of wine. Footprints that led in circles. A bird that spoke her name, then vanished. At last, under the blood-orange sky, she came once more to the clearing of bones and snakes. The hut stood waiting, silent. Kamali stepped forward. The door opened. And so, the girl crossed the line between fear and fate, to face the mother of snakes, to seek the spell that could save or doom her people. But not all stories want to be undone. Some, like curses, want to be remembered. Kamali stepped beyond the circle of snakes. The forest was silent, yet alive. The hut before her was covered in ivy and dried vines. Bones hung like ornaments. Wind chimes made from teeth clinked in the breeze. The door creaked open by itself. Inside, a low blue flame burned in a pot of herbs and ash. It smelled like burnt hair and rain-soaked roots. Then, out of the shadows, Mama Nyoka emerged. Her skin looked like bark. Her eyes gleamed silver and black. But Kamali did not flinch. Kamali, I came for the truth, not for fear. Mama Nyoka, voice like dry leaves. And truth is the most dangerous thing you can carry in the forest. Kamali reached into her satchel and removed a gourd of milk, a small pouch of salt, and a feather from a gray owl. Kamali, I bring peace, not poison. Mama Nyoka raised her thin eyebrows. Mama Nyoka, salt for truth, milk for forgiveness, owl's feather for vision. She smiles faintly. You were taught well. Mama Nyoka motioned for Kamali to sit. In the center of the hut lay a circle drawn in ash, surrounded by stones inscribed with old runes. Mama Nyoka, step inside. But know this, once you enter the circle of truth, you cannot lie, not even to yourself. Kamali stepped in. A breeze wrapped around her ankles like silk. Then the circle glowed, and Kamali's surroundings changed. The hut vanished. Kamali found herself in the Kalunda of the past, over 2 decades ago. The village was full of light and laughter. A young healer, Nyaru Mama Nyoka before her transformation, sang to her baby boy, Mandu, beneath the baobab. Villagers brought her gifts, praised her herbs, and danced to her drum. But Kamali saw envy behind their eyes. Whispers, jealousy. Then came a man, Kato, a hunter, handsome, cruel, smiling. He gave little Mandu a gourd of honey. Days later, the boy began to cough. Then the vomiting. Then silence. Kamali watched as Nyara held her lifeless son, screaming into the dirt. From the same baobab, Nyara carved runes with her fingernails until they bled. She gathered snake eggs, nightshade roots, and blood from her own veins. She chanted the binding song of the serpent mothers, a song forbidden since the time before tribes. Lightning cracked. Wind howled. A darkness rose from the roots of the forest. If I must suffer, then let them all taste it. The vision ended. Kamali stood sweating in the circle of truth. Mama Nyoka. They murdered my son with jealousy. Poisoned him. Laughed behind my back. She reached for a jar. Inside was a dried umbilical cord, Mandu's. Mama Nyoka. I tied the curse to this cord. So long as it remains, so does the suffering. Kamali. Then burn it. End it. Mama Nyoka laughed, soft, bitter. Mama Nyoka. If I destroy it, I die. The curse feeds on me. I am its root, its womb. Kamali's mark, still glowing, burned hotter. The snake design twisted like it was alive. Mama Nyoka. The curse is looking for a new host. She reached out, fingers cold as water. Mama Nyoka. You were born under the weeping moon. You are a vessel. Kamali. Shaking. I don't want it. Mama Nyoka. Then find a way to undo what I bound. Without death. Without passing it on. Kamali looked into the silver-black eyes of the witch and saw regret. Not evil. Not madness. Just heartbreak. Kamali stepped out of the circle. Kamali. Teach me. Mama Nyoka. Softly. You would learn the old ways? Even knowing they might destroy you? Kamali. If I can learn the curse, maybe I can unlearn it. Mama Nyoka stood tall for the first time. She reached for a gourd made of dried gibbon's skull. She poured out blood-colored ink and began painting strange patterns on Kamali's arms. Mama Nyoka. Then we begin. That night, Kamali learned to chant in the language of roots and rivers. Learned the 4 sacred names of fire. Burned dried centipede shells to call ancestral winds. Danced barefoot on thorns without bleeding. She dreamed of snakes that spoke in riddles. Her grandmother weeping. the village on fire, with her standing in the middle. During one ritual, as Kamali meditated, a shadow figure appeared. It had Mandu's face but empty eyes. Mandu's spirit. The curse does not sleep. It waits. Even love will not save them if the root is not pulled. Then he faded into ash. Meanwhile, in Kalunda, the chief's wife died in her sleep. Veins turned black. The river dried up. Crops cracked open like wounds. The people gathered under the baobab, screaming. Villager 1. Bring us the girl. Villager 2. She took the curse and ran, but Elder Mikasa raised his staff. Elder Mikasa. Let the fire burn its full length before judging its warmth. Still, fear grew. They planned to enter the forest. On the fourth night, Kamali found something hidden in Mama Nyoka's hut. A scroll sealed with blood. She opened it. A spell. One that could unbind the curse from the umbilical cord without killing Mama Nyoka. But it required 3 things. A sacrifice of memory. The tears of a child born during the silent moon. The root of the talking baobab. Kamali gasped. Kamali. The tree in my dream. Mama Nyoka stood behind her, quiet. Mama Nyoka. So now you know? And so, the girl who once ran from shadows now walked hand in hand with him. With every lesson learned, she inched closer to either redemption or ruin. But the forest does not give freely. For everything gained, something must be lost. Kamali sat with Mama Nyoka by the fire of bonewood. In her hands was the scroll, the unbinding ritual that could lift the curse without death. But it needed 3 rare things. A sacrifice of memory, the tears of a child born under the silent moon, the root of the talking baobab. Kamali would have to find them alone. First, Kamali traveled to the Cave of Echoes, a place only spoken of in frightened stories. It was said the cave ate what you loved most. She entered with a calabash of water and her grandmother's monkey skull necklace. Inside, every footstep echoed twice. A voice called out, her mother's voice, soft, warm, full of lullabies she had never heard in waking life. Mother's voice. Kamali, come home. Kamali fell to her knees. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Mother's voice. Give me your first memory, the one you cling to. Give it, and the cave will return what you need. Kamali whispered. Kamali. My father's laugh before he left. That's all I had. The walls pulsed. Her chest felt empty. But in return, the cave gave her a silver feather glowing with memory. The first offering. Next, Kamali returned to Kalunda in secret. Disguised in a cloak of forest leaves, she visited the hut of midwife Zena. There, she found a baby girl named Amani, born 1 year ago during the silent moon, a night when even the stars refused to shine. Kamali wept softly at Amani's cradle. She gently whispered an old lullaby, taught by Mama Nyoka. The child blinked, then smiled, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. Kamali caught it in a shard of calabash. As she turned to leave, she saw her grandmother's silhouette in the moonlight. Mzee Njoki, softly, I knew you'd return. The forest has not swallowed you yet. They embraced, quietly, without words. Mzee Njoki pressed a bundle of dried herbs into her hand. Mzee Njoki, take this. You'll need it at the talking baobab. Then she disappeared into the shadows. The final trial. Deep beyond the rivers, past the cliffs of red stone, stood a giant baobab tree, its bark marked with carvings of screaming faces. The talking baobab was said to be as old as the first curse. Some said it was alive. Others, that it was a god trapped in wood. Kamali arrived at dusk. The air trembled. The tree spoke, not with a mouth, but inside her skull. Baobab, deep, layered voice. Kamali, bearer of pain. You seek the root, but you must first face yourself. A hollow opened at its base. She crawled in. Inside was herself, but older, wiser, with eyes like ash. Old Kamali. You want to end the curse, but will you carry its burden if you fail? Kamali. I will do what the village could not, forgive. Old Kamali smiled and shattered like glass. The baobab moaned and gave up a twisted, black root, humming with energy. Kamali tied it to her belt. Kamali returned to Mama Nyoka's hut, weakened but whole. Mama Nyoka. You passed the forest. You heard its truth. Kamali nodded. Kamali. The curse was never about power. It was about pain and silence. Mama Nyoka looked at the items, feather of memory, baby's tear, baobab root, and whispered. Mama Nyoka. We are ready. But then the fire turned blue. and the snakes outside began to hiss violently. A shadow loomed. Chief Mugo and a mob of villagers, armed with fire and spears, had followed Kamali's trail. Chief Mugo. Which? We end it tonight. Kamali stepped between them and Mama Nyoka. Kamali. She is not your enemy. Your silence was. Your lies were. A spear flew, nicking Kamali's arm. The wound bled black smoke. Mama Nyoka. She's becoming the vessel. If we don't finish the ritual now, she'll carry the curse forever. Inside the hut, Kamali knelt in the ash circle. Mama Nyoka began to chant in a language lost to history. Kamali placed the 3 offerings in a bowl. The silver feather, the child's tear, the baobab root. She added a drop of her blood. The mixture turned into golden smoke, rising like a serpent. The umbilical cord of Mandu was placed in the center. Suddenly, Mama Nyoka collapsed. Mama Nyk, weakly. The curse is hungry. It wants you now. Kamali was faced with a choice. Complete the ritual, using her final breath to destroy the cord, or take the curse into herself, sparing Mama Nyoka and carrying the burden forever. Her hands trembled. The snakes coiled around her feet. Kamali whispered, Kamali, I forgive you, Mama Nyoka, but I will not let hate live in me. She struck the bowl with her grandmother's dried herb bundle. Light burst. Smoke screamed. The cord burned into dust. Mama Nyoka gasped and smiled. Then she disappeared into ash. And so the girl who wandered into darkness brought light with her. Not with blades, not with war, but with a broken heart made whole. The curse was broken, but not all was over. Kamali returned to Kalunda with the ashes of Mama Nyoka scattered in a small gourd. The air smelled cleaner. Babies giggled in the arms of mothers. Goats grazed peacefully again. Even the river flowed freely for the first time in years. Elder Mikasa welcomed her with arms wide. Elder Mikasa. The girl who danced with darkness now carries our dawn. Villagers who once whispered curses now sang praises. But Kamali felt no peace. Inside, her dreams were still clouded with red mist and the screaming of trees. That night, the moon rose blood red. The air turned sharp. Dogs howled at nothing. The baobab tree cracked as if something inside it had moved. Kamali stood outside her hut, eyes fixed on the red sky. She heard it again. The song. But it wasn't Mama Nyoka's. It was deeper, older, crooked. It came not from the forest, but from the earth itself. At midnight, the villagers heard a rumbling. Cracks formed in the soil around the baobab tree. From the broken roots, black vines shot upward, twisting like angry hands. Screams echoed as one of the villagers' old bakery was pulled underground. A child cried, pointing. Child. The tree, it's bleeding. Dark sap poured from the baobab. Kamali fell to her knees, clutching her mark. It glowed again, though Mama Nyoka's curse was gone. Kamali fainted. In her vision, she stood inside a red world of ash. Before her stood a figure cloaked in wind and bone. Not Mama Nyoka. Something else. The thing. I am Buru, the forgotten one. Before Nyoka's grief, before your tribe danced. I was buried here, sealed by the first witches. The curse she cast awakened me. Kamali stepped back. Buru. She tore her soul with sorrow, and in that tear, I found a way in. Kamali gasped. Kamali. Then the curse wasn't the root. It was a door. Kamali woke to screams. The villagers stood in panic. Roots were growing across huts. Livestock were being strangled in their pens. The baobab tree was splitting open like a gaping mouth. Chief Mugo approached Kamali, this time not with anger, but fear. Chief Mugo. Please. You know the forest now. Stop this. Kamali took a deep breath. Kamali. It's not Mama Nyoka. It's something older. We broke the curse, but woke the god it was holding back. With the help of Elder Mikasa, Kamali prepared the final binding ritual, one not to break a curse, but to seal a gate. She needed ash from the cord, a moonlit thorn, blood from the willing. Mzine Joki stepped forward. Mzine Joki. Let my blood be the sacrifice. I am ready. Kamali wept, but accepted. They walked to the tree. It was now a tower of black vines, pulsing like veins. A single eye opened on the trunk. Buru had awakened. Kamali stepped forward. Buru, from the tree. You would bind me again, little girl? You who carry pieces of me in your skin. Kamali raised her hands. Kamali. I am not your vessel. I am your prison. She began to chant. The villagers joined her. Even the forest bent inward, holding its breath. As Kamali pressed the thorn into her palm, her blood fell into the roots. The earth shook. Bura screamed, a scream of fire, bone, and wind. The baobab split one last time. Kamali ran to its core and placed the ashes of Mama Nyoka into the wound. She whispered, "Kamali, rest now, all of you." The tree sealed shut, trapping Buru's essence. But Kamali collapsed, her mark burning until it faded into nothing. She was still, silent. The forest went quiet. Nzinjoki held Kamali in her arms. Kamali, whispering, "Did it work?" Nzinjoki, "You've done what no elder could. You've given Kalunda back its voice." The villagers knelt before Kamali, not as a witch, not as a cursed girl, but as their savior. As the blood moon faded, the stars returned. Children played again. Fires were lit, not in fear, but for celebration. Kamali stood under the baobab tree, whole, but changed. She planted a new sapling beside it, a tree for healing, not hiding. And as dawn rose, a single white cobra slithered out of the forest. It looked at Kamali, nodded, and vanished. The forest remembers. And now, it remembers a girl who turned grief into growth and pain into power. The curse was broken. The god was sealed. But stories are forever. The sun rose gently over Kalunda for the first time in many seasons. There was no longer a heaviness in the wind. Children played without looking over their shoulders. Chickens nested calmly. Cows nursed their calves. And for the first time in many years, a baby was born. Her name was Nyoka, in memory of the witch who had once cursed the village and who now rested in peace. Kamali returned to the old baobab tree, its bark now healed, its pulse gone. The scar where Mbura once awakened had been sealed with roots and stone. She sat beneath it, planting herbs around its base. In her hand, she held Mama Nyoka's ash gourd, now sealed with beeswax. "Kamali," softly, "I will not forget you." She poured the last of the ashes into the soil. From the ground, a new sprout pushed through, a snake-shaped shoot, but glowing white, a sign of balance. The villagers, once afraid of Kamali, now came to her for help. Mothers brought her their sick children. Elders came with aching joints. Farmers asked which plants to grow near the river. She never turned anyone away. Her hut became a place of healing filled with herbs, drums, carved gourds, and a shrine to Mama Nyoka and Mandu. Kamali wore her mark now not in shame, but as a symbol of survival. One evening, as the fireflies blinked across the village, Kamali invited the villagers to gather around the baobab. "Kamali, I have a story to tell." She told them everything. How jealousy poisoned Mama Nyoka's son. How grief twisted into a curse. How silence let evil grow. She looked at the elders, her eyes firm. "Kamali, if we do not speak of pain, we bury seeds of future curses." The villagers wept, and then they listened. That night, stories were shared. Elder Mikasa confessed he had once ignored Nyaru's cries for help. A woman revealed she had once laughed at Mama Nyoka's son's sickness. Chief Mugo lowered his head in silence. The next day, Kamali led the building of a shrine beside the baobab. It was simple, made of stone and wood, with symbols carved in spirals and circles. At the center, she placed a white cobra carving, a drum made from Nyoka's hide, the scroll of the curse, now marked, sealed by truth. Children were told to bow before it, not in fear, but in remembrance. Time passed. Kalunda flourished again. Kamali grew into a wise woman, beloved and respected. She took on 3 apprentices, including a shy girl named Lena, who also had a strange birthmark, a leaf in the shape of an eye. Kamali would sit under the baobab each evening, telling stories. And every tale began the same. Once, there was a woman who loved her son so much that when he was taken from her, the forest itself wept. On the 10th anniversary of the curse's ending, Kamali dreamed one last time. She stood in a vast meadow of silver grass. Before her stood Mama Nyoka, glowing in white robes, smiling. Beside her, a boy, Mandu, holding a drum. Mama Nyoka, smiling. "You gave my pain a name, and my name peace. Mandu, and now, you carry more than my curse. You carry hope." Kamali woke with tears on her face. Kamali gathered the children of Kalunda one night, sat beneath the talking baobab, and began. "Kamali, there are 2 kinds of magic, one that silences, and one that listens." She told them the full story, not hiding the pain or the horror. Then she said, "Kamali, If you remember, truly remember, the curse cannot return. In Kalunda, the forest no longer sings in fear. It sings in memory of a witch who wept, a girl who listened, and a people who finally found their voice. And so the curse ended, not with fire, but with forgiveness and the roots of truth.